Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Abhishek Mahajan, coming up in the next 30 minutes. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar holds bilateral meeting with visiting Saudi counterpart in Delhi. EAM says Saudi's Vision 2030 and Viksit Bharat 2047 hold complementarities for industries to build new partnerships. The United States vows firm response to North Korea deployment in Ukraine conflict. US President-elect Donald Trump picks Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy to lead newly formed Department of Government Efficiency. And major development banks pledge to increase funding to poor and middle-income countries struggling with global warming at Baku COP29 summit. News in detail now. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar met his Saudi counterpart Faisal bin Farhan Al Saud in the national capital on Wednesday. The two leaders met at the Hyderabad House in Delhi. Following this, the two leaders deliberated for the second meeting of the Political, Security, Social and Cultural Committee of the India-Saudi Arabia Strategic Partnership Council. The leaders discussed India-Saudi Arabia strategic partnership. In his opening remarks, Dr. Jaishankar highlighted that the India-Saudi Arabia partnership is focused on progress and the future, with both countries' visions, Saudi Vision 2030 and India's Vision 2047, offering complementary opportunities for new industrial partnerships.
Has now expanded to defense industry and exports as well. Our security cooperation has also grown steadily. We are collaborating in counter-terrorism, combating extremism, terrorism financing and drug trafficking. Saudi's Vision 2030 and Viksit Bharat 2047 hold complementarities for our industries to build new partnerships. Trade and investments are important pillars of our partnership, and we are strengthening them in new areas, including technology, energy, renewable energy, connectivity, health and education. We welcome efforts to promote culture, tourism and youth exchanges.
And Saudi Arabia's Foreign Minister Prince Faisal bin Farhan Al Saud said relations with India are built on a long-standing foundation of cooperation and mutual respect.
Relations between the Kingdom and India are built on a long-standing foundation of cooperation and mutual respect. Our shared history, marked by centuries of trade and cultural exchange, has laid a strong foundation for the robust and solid partnership we have today. We recognize the importance of sustained coordinated efforts across all areas of cooperation. On regional and international affairs, we believe our coordination is essential. We will continue to align our positions on issues of shared concern, especially as they pertain to international peace, security and economic development. We are confident that advancing cooperation serves our mutual interests as well as benefits the region more broadly.
Moving further, Russia escalated its attacks on Ukraine's capital Kiev early Wednesday, launching waves of drones and missiles in its first combined aerial assault on the capital in more than 70 days. Ukraine's Air Force reported intercepting 4 missiles and 37 drones launched by Russia over 8 regions of Ukraine overnight and into Wednesday morning. According to military, the attack involved missiles launched by strategic bombers as well as ballistic missiles. The large-scale bombardment comes at a critical moment on the battlefield. Russian forces are advancing in the east and concerns are growing over future aid after US Donald Trump's victory in presidential elections. Ukraine has for months been appealing to its Western allies to provide more air defense systems to fend off Russian attacks on cities and critical infrastructure. Now, US Secretary of State Antony Blinken warned Wednesday that the deployment of North Korean troops alongside Russian forces fighting on the Ukrainian border demanded a firm response. Blinken met NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte in Brussels on Wednesday at the start of a day of Brussels talks as The outgoing Biden administration sought to cement support for Ukraine ahead of Donald Trump's return as president. US President-elect Trump has questioned US military support for Ukraine. He promised to quickly end Russia's war without saying how, raising concerns among US allies he could try to force Kiev to accept peace on Moscow's terms. On Tuesday, the US State Department said North Korean troops had begun engaging in combat operations alongside Russian forces in the war with Ukraine. Blinken said both the leaders discussed the fact North Korean forces have been injected into the battle.
About our ongoing support for Ukraine in the face of an ongoing Russian aggression. As well, this added element now of DPRK, North Korean forces, injected into the battle, and now quite literally in combat, which demands and will get a firm response. We see increasingly the indivisibility of security between and among these different theaters, the Euro-Atlantic theater, the Indo-Pacific theater, the Middle East, and it's critical that we find ways to work ever more closely together. One of the things that NATO's done in recent years is to strengthen its partnership with Indo-Pacific partners, and we'll do more of that in the weeks and months ahead.
While on Israel-Gaza conflict, Antony Blinken said that the United States wants real and extended pauses in fighting in Gaza so assistance can get to people who need it, but the best way to help people would be to end the war. A 30-day U.S. deadline for Israel to take steps to address the humanitarian situation in Gaza expired on Tuesday. Washington said Israel was not blocking aid to Gaza and therefore not violating U.S. law. Donald Trump has strongly backed Israel since October 7 attack. Now the United States is opening a new air defense base in northern Poland on Wednesday as Warsaw seeks to reassure citizens that NATO guarantees their security amid jitters after Donald Trump's presidential election victory. The base is situated in the town of Redzikowo near the Baltic coast. It has been in the works since the 2000s. Warsaw said it shows Poland's military alliance with Washington remains solid, whoever is in the White House. The Kremlin has called it a bid to contain Russia by moving American military infrastructure near its borders. The US base at Redzikowo is part of a broader NATO missile shield dubbed Aegis Ashore, which the alliance says can intercept short to intermediate range ballistic missiles. Moving on, US President-elect Donald Trump's cabinet is slowly taking shape as he named billionaire Elon Musk and former Republican presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy to co-lead a newly created Department of Government Efficiency. Trump announced that the new department would work with the White House and Office of Management and Budget to drive large-scale structural reform and create an entrepreneurial approach to government never seen before. The work would conclude by July 4, 2026, the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Trump likened the efficiency effort to the Manhattan Project, the U.S. undertaking to build the atomic bomb that helped end World War II, while Musk promised transparency. So Donald Trump has named more of his incoming team on Tuesday, including seasoned figures and hardliners. His administration is taking shape one name at a time. He announced his former Director of National Intelligence, John Ratcliffe, to lead the Central Intelligence Agency, while Trump has also said he will nominate Fox News Channel host Pete Hegseth to be Secretary of Defense. Trump also announced Mike Huckabee as U.S. Ambassador to Israel under his incoming administration. And U.S. President-elect Donald Trump will make a triumphant return to the White House to meet President Joe Biden on Wednesday in the Republicans' first visit since departing amid a cloud of scandal nearly 4 years ago. Trump's meeting with Biden comes as he moves swiftly to name his top team, including Elon Musk as head of a new group aimed at slashing government waste. Democrat Biden invited his sworn rival to meet in the Oval Office despite the fact that Trump, who has consistently refused to admit his 2020 election loss, never afforded Biden the same courtesy. Biden is expected to urge a smooth transition of power in the encounter at 1600 GMT and push for continued support for Ukraine. Shifting focus, Germany is set to hold snap elections on February 23rd in an effort to establish a stable government following the collapse of Chancellor Olaf Scholz's three-party coalition last week. The election date, agreed upon by the country's two biggest parties on Tuesday, represents a compromise between the conservative opposition, which pushed for a January vote to avoid leaving Germany without clear leadership, and Scholz, who preferred mid-March to allow more time for authorities and parties to prepare. The February 23rd date is predicated on Scholz holding a confidence vote on December 16 that he is expected to lose. After that, President Frank-Walter Steinmeier will have 21 days to dissolve the Bundestag or lower house of parliament. Elections would have to be held within the next 60 days. And the Knesset passed in second and third readings a bill enabling the Interior Minister to deport the families of terrorists if the state can prove they knew about the intention of their relative to commit the terror act but did nothing to prevent it.
Under this new law, parents, siblings, children and spouses of anyone Israel has accused of terrorism could be deported if it is established that they knew about the supposed activity and didn't act to stop them. Supporters of the legislation say that fear of expulsion could discourage potential attackers, though nearly half the votes were against the law.
Since when, in which part of the world, in which book of laws, they punish a person for something he didn't do? Why punish the brother, or the sister, or the nephew, or the mother, or the father?
The law has sparked major concerns within Israel's security agencies and Knesset legal advisors, who warned it might be seen as collective punishment by the country's high court.
Anyone who's a terrorist and people who support terrorism are not welcome in the country, and I think that's a basic right.
The law doesn't specify deportation locations, but media reports have suggested the Gaza Strip as a primary option. Exile terms would vary from 7 to 15 years for citizens and up to 20 years for residents. The new law, passed by a significant but divided vote of around 60 to 40, has left politicians, lawmakers and the public deeply divided. Supporters argue it's a necessary deterrent, while critics warn it could lead to human rights violations and escalate tensions. The law comes into force immediately, and as the first cases are about to unfold, its true consequences could be more far-reaching than anyone anticipates. Marie Fenoshina, RT, reporting from Haifa and East Jerusalem.
And in a latest warning from COP29 summit in Baku, global CO2 emissions are set to hit record high in 2024. This will include emissions from burning fossil fuels other than industrial activities from low-tech devices. The Global Carbon Budget report published during the UN's COP29 climate summit in Azerbaijan said global CO2 emissions are set to total 41.6 billion metric tons in 2024, up from 40.6 billion tons last year. The bulk of these emissions are from burning coal, oil and gas. Those emissions would total 37.4 billion tons in 2024, up by 0.8% in 2023, the report said. The rest are from land use, a category that includes deforestation and forest fires. The report by more than 80 institutions was led by the University of Exeter in Britain. Such emissions increase will pull the world further off course from averting more destructive climate extremes, scientists said on Wednesday. And Albanian Prime Minister Eddie Rama on Wednesday slammed world leaders for not listening to each other's speeches and said that good words spoken during the COP29 climate summit will not change anything. Nearly 200 nations have gathered at the annual UN Climate Summit in Baku, focused this year on raising hundreds of billions of dollars to fund a global transition to cleaner energy sources and limit the climate damage caused by carbon emissions. Speaking at the summit, Rama expressed his disappointment by saying he had scrapped his prepared speech after saying that televisions in the leaders' lounge were muted during other speeches.
I decided to leave aside my well-prepared speech because in the meantime, since yesterday, I was watching the silent TV screens in the Leaders' Lounge, where the organizers have thoughtfully added green plants above the comfortable couches. People there eat, drink, meet, and take photos together, while images of voiceless speeches from leaders play on and on and on in the background. To me, this seems exactly like what happens in the real world every day. Life goes on with its old habits, and our speeches full of good words about fighting climate change nothing. Worse, as the UN Secretary General emphasized yesterday, carbon emissions actually increased last year from previous COP to this COP.
And speaking at the COP29 climate summit, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni called on Wednesday for a balanced energy mix that will include gas, biofuel and other resources during the transition to cleaner energy. She added that such efforts need to take into account reality, protecting nature with man at its core.
Global GDP will double in the next decade. This will boost energy consumption, also considering the increasing demand for artificial intelligence development. We need a balanced energy mix to enhance the transition process. We must use all available technologies, not only renewables, but also gas, biofuels, hydrogen, CO2 capture, and in future, nuclear fusion.
Major development banks have pledged to increase funding to poor and middle-income countries struggling with global warming at Baku COP29 summit. Still to come on this edition of DD India Live. Preparations underway as Sri Lanka readies to vote for new parliament. And India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi lays foundation stone of EAM's Darbhanga in eastern state of Bihar.
Our habitats are turning into concrete jungles, and that is concerning, but there is hope even in this grim reality.
Our rivers are like lifelines. They are spaces for humans, for biodiversity, and yes, we have neglected them so far, but really that's an opportunity for us to restore them to their natural conditions.
We now have species that can adapt by conserving the water they have instead of letting it evaporate and being easy to care for.
We have always been farmers in my family. We used to do chemical farming with hybrid seed varieties, but now we have switched to organic farming with natural seeds.
This embankment will be removed and the river will be widened to cover the grassland up to the wider flood embankments on both the Swiss and Austrian side.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. In neighbouring Sri Lanka, preparations for the 14 November parliamentary election are underway as the island nation prepares to vote to elect 225 members to the parliament. President Anura Kumara Dissanayake dissolved parliament on 24 September to clear the way for the general election, days after the Marxist-leaning leader was elected president on a platform for change. The election became necessary as Dissanayake had just 3 lawmakers in the outgoing parliament, whose 5-year term was due to end in August 2025 and needed a fresh mandate to push his policies. Polling will be held on Thursday between 7 a.m. and 4 p.m. local time at over 13,400 polling stations. Counting of votes will begin at 4:15 p.m. with postal ballots first and ballot boxes after they are shifted to the counting centres. And as the Maharashtra Assembly elections approach, Union Home Minister and BJP leader Amit Shah launched a scathing attack on the opposition Maha Vikas Aghadi alliance, referring to it as a force of destruction. Shah, who is in Maharashtra, addressed various election campaigns in the state. In Dhule, Shah claimed Thakkre's alliance with Congress and NCP leaders compromises his party's values by aligning with those who oppose pivotal issues, including the Ram temple construction in Ayodhya. Shah's remarks highlighted the BJP's focus on ideological positioning, projecting itself as the guardian of cultural and nationalist values in opposition to the MVA's alleged stance on appeasement. And Bharat Sanchar Nigam Limited, BSNL, the government-run telecom service provider, launched a direct-to-device satellite connectivity service on Wednesday. With direct-to-device, BSNL is offering the service to all of its users, giving them the ability to stay connected despite the remoteness of the location. The Indian Department of Telecommunications announced the launch, calling it the India's first satellite-to-device service. The Indian Telecom developed this technology along with Viasat, a California-based communications technology company. It is aimed at offering seamless connectivity to users even in the remote and isolated corners of the country. For instance, the satellite connectivity service can help users trekking to the Chandratal Lake in Spiti Valley or living in a remote village in Rajasthan stay connected with their loved ones. And to provide a major boost to health infrastructure in the region, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi laid the foundation stone of EAM's Darbhanga in the eastern state of Bihar, worth more than Rs 1,260 crore on Wednesday. Prime Minister also dedicated multiple developmental projects worth around Rs 12,100 crore in Bihar. EAMS will comprise a super specialty hospital or Ayush block, medical college, nursing college, among others. Prime Minister also inaugurated and laid the foundation stone of multiple national highway projects worth around Rs 5,070 crore in Bihar. The Prime Minister also flagged off train services in the Janjharpur Lokaha Bazaar section to facilitate easier access to jobs, education and healthcare facilities in nearby towns and cities. PM Modi dedicated 18 Pradhan Mantri Bharatiya Jan Aushadhi Kendras at various railway stations across India and laid the foundation stone of multiple initiatives in the petroleum and natural gas sector worth more than Rs 4,020 crore. And as Jharkhand prepares for its second phase of election scheduled for November 20th, Prime Minister Modi addressed an election rally in Sarat. Accused Congress of appeasement, Prime Minister Modi said that Congress wants to end reservation by spreading hatred in the society.
कांग्रेस ने आप लोगों की आंखों में धूल झोंकने का एक नया खेल खेला है। ये लोग अब एससी, एसटी, ओबीसी की जो सामूहिक शक्ति बनी है, एसटी कहते ही सारा आदिवासी समाज इकट्ठा हो जाता है, एससी कहते ही सारा दलित समाज इकट्ठा हो जाता है, ओबीसी कहते ही सारा पिछड़ा समाज एक हो जाता है। ये सामूहिक शक्ति जो बनी है ना, ये कांग्रेस वाले इसे तोड़ना चाहते हैं।
All right, sports now. India will play South Africa in the third T20I game at Super Sport Park in Centurion, venue they last played in 2018 and lost. India would be looking to adapt to the quick bouncy pitch similar to that in the last game. Key players like Abhishek Sharma, Suryakumar Yadav, Hardik Pandya and Rinku Singh need to improve after recent struggles as India's batting is yet to settle. In the bowling department, Arshdeep Singh and Avesh Khan had mixed performances which might lead to lineup changes, while spinners Varun Chakravarti and Ravi Bishnoi have been reliable and could benefit from favourable pitch conditions. South Africa also face batting issues with experienced players like Aiden Markram, David Miller and Henrik Klaassen yet to make an impact. An Indian badminton star PV Sindhu has advanced to the women's singles round of 16 at the Kumamoto Masters Japan Super 500 tournament on Wednesday. Sindhu defeated Thailand's Busanan in a swift match, winning 21-12, 21-8 in just 38 minutes and entered into the round of 16. On the other hand, Lakshya Sen had a disappointing defeat against Malaysia's Leong Jun Hao 22-20, 17-21, 16-21 match despite taking the first game of the match. Lakshya's journey came to an end in the first round after losing the match against a lower-ranked opponent. Well, that's all for this edition of DD India Live, but do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. From all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.